What is up, Nalter gang? I just recently went to Leonhart's 90s pop-up event and I genuinely did have a good time. Although I'm very well aware of a lot of the negative feedback surrounding the event, and rather than making another video, because there's plenty of them already out there on the internet talking about some of the pitfalls of this event, I figured I would rather make a video talking about how I personally would make the next event better if I were Leonhart. I genuinely do think that Lee had good intentions with this event, and he has since come out with a video talking through some of these things. And honestly, an event like this is just really tough to put on, and this being the first one of its kind, there was destined to be some things that just weren't going to go according to plan. All right, let's dive in. Number one, communication. So communication was definitely something that was lacking at this event. However, I would say that communication is definitely going to be one of the toughest things to fully execute across a large group of people during the first time an event is held like this. We got an email based on our ticket level a few days before the event was held, giving us a little bit more information about how to get our vintage pack and exactly what time we'd be going up on stage for the live. However, when we got there, it kind of seemed more of like a free-for-all because the live stream had already happened well before the stream was supposed to start, at least based on the information that I had read. There wasn't really a line as far as where to go if you were a VIP 1 versus a VIP 3 and so on. And so it all kind of just merged into one line, and based on the size of the venue, you couldn't really tell who was in line for what. So I think providing a little bit more clarity on this moving forward would be beneficial for all parties, so nobody ends up waiting in a line longer than they have to, which is definitely probably the biggest gripe of the event. One of the other things that I thought was a little bit confusing was whether or not we were going to be able to bring in a backpack that was not a clear bag. The venue clearly stated on its website that they did have a clear bag policy, and it did not make any reference to which events that applied to. It was more of just a blanket policy. However, through some digging on Twitter and conversations that I found that people had sent me directly from Leonhart, it was said that you should be able to bring a backpack to the event. And because we were trying to hand things out and bring some things with us, like camera gear, it was definitely something that we were hoping we could do, so that way our experience and the things that we were trying to do executed as flawlessly as possible. And especially when so many people were going to be bringing items to trade, it would just make sense. So when we got to the event, we actually heard from somebody in line that staff from the venue had come out and said that you were not going to be able to get in with a backpack. You would have to have a clear bag, which was in direct contradiction to things that we had seen online and what we thought was a kind of a closed book as far as, well, we definitely know we can bring a backpack. So the fact that the venue was saying this to people while they were waiting in line at the venue minutes before the event was about to start was definitely not something that anybody expected. Luckily, we decided to stick around and just see what would happen, because worst case scenario, we'd have to go back and drop our bag off at our hotel and come back with a clear bag. Which would have not been ideal, but we could have made it happen. And we were able to get in with the backpack, as was everyone else in line. A little bit disjointed there. I think that just needs to be hammered out, and some things like that. If we're going to have people bringing stuff into an event like this, and it's going to break an event's typical policy, those things should be very clearly stated on the website, and the venue should be very well aware of what is going on. Another odd thing was the drone show that happened the night before the event. It was something that we saw on Twitter because Lee had tweeted something out about 10 or 15 minutes before it went live, and it's something I would have loved to see in person. Unfortunately, we had just gotten home to our hotel, and so we were not exactly in the mood to try and go out again to maybe see this on short notice, and we were going to try and see it from the top floor of our hotel. But unfortunately, there was a massive skyscraper right in front of us, which we made a joke about calling it Duraludon, ruining the good time, because as Duraludon goes, it's a dragon skyscraper, which doesn't make sense, but that's for a different story. In this case, we just were kind of sad that we weren't able to see this, and I know a lot of people were confused on Twitter why there wasn't further notice that this was going to be happening. So I think this is another thing that would really justify paying a ticket price and paying to fly out for an experience, is what else is going on besides the event itself. And so this was something that I think would have been an awesome opportunity for collectors and people in the community to come together and watch together. Maybe there was rules about gathering crowds in an area that wouldn't have made that possible, but just kind of seemed weird that it was tweeted out, but just not until right before the event. And the other thing that I think would really help with communication would be usage of the social media handles for the pop-up, because there was a Twitter and an Instagram for both. We were encouraged to tag and use the hashtag Leonhart pop-up throughout the event, but these accounts really did not have any promotion of the event leading up to the event. and getting people to find out more about the event through these socials, which kind of seems like the most obvious place for me beyond the website itself. I think that this would have been an awesome opportunity for customer support in real time, people that were wondering where to go. If there would have been a team of people, I don't know how many, 2 or 3 people that were responding to questions in real time for a few hours leading up to the event, and then for a few hours during the event or throughout the duration of the event, it would have solved a lot of problems. I think moving forward, just making sure that those channels are being properly used will help everybody on both ends. So number 2, let's talk about the venue. The Factory in Deep Ellum is where this event was held, and honestly, it was a really cool event. Although I wasn't sure if it was exactly the venue that was needed for this event specifically. It's usually 4 concerts. It makes sense, 4 concerts. Looks like it'd be a really good time to have more of an intimate venue for one of your favorite artists. But knowing how many people were coming to this event, trying to move around, trade, see things, be in line, I don't think it meshed well for what the goal was here. And honestly, it just wasn't big enough to withstand the number of people that were coming to this event. I think in the future, having a venue that is going to be of a larger size, like a convention center, which I think a lot of people were hoping this event would be, would just make sense. And I totally believe that Lee and his team can probably sell out an event of that size if given the lead up for it, and especially if they do it in a large city like Dallas, like LA or New York. So that there's plenty of people that can come to an event without having to fly. And then the people that do want to fly in, like myself, still can. But I think that being able to secure a larger venue moving forward is absolutely imperative. Also, having a large event venue, similar to a Collecticon or a Comic-Con, where you can actually have people that buy booths to set up their trading tables. Charge people $100 a ticket to set up a trading booth where they can have a folding table to set out their cards, and people can walk around and see what they have for sale or for trade. That was something that I thought was massively missing from this event. People that did bring cards to trade were kind of huddled up in corners, and they were at the trading tables, but there was only so many. They were pretty dimly lit, which especially those of us that are card collectors, I want to see the cards that I'm buying or trading for in their best light, so that I can know exactly what condition they're in, so I don't make a stupid trade. So I think having more of a structured area for something like this is going to be really beneficial, and just give people that aren't even there to buy or trade or sell something to do and walk around when other things aren't going on. Number 3, let's talk about vendors, and this definitely kind of weaves in with number 2. There was a few vendors there. Troll and Toad was there, and they were selling booster boxes of Chilling Reign and Fusion Strike for $80 a box, and there was tons of people that were buying it because people wanted more things to buy than what was there at this event. I think there was a massive opportunity missed here, that whoever could have been there selling booster boxes and packs and other products of modern and other vintage stuff could have made a killing, but it just wasn't there. I had an Evolving Skies booster box that I was walking around with and handing out free packs, but people were walking up to me and wondering where I got that, and they were asking if they could buy packs off of me, and that wasn't my objective, so I didn't want to do that. I just gave them the packs for free. But it just goes to show that if I were walking around with a trench coat at this event, I think that I probably could have done a pretty good amount of sales just walking around to the various lines while people were waiting and just handing out packs because people wanted something to do. Definitely need to have more vendors, or at least larger opportunities for people to sell sealed product. That's what this event is about. It's about sealed product. It's about vintage first and foremost, being that was kind of the main selling point of the event, but everyone in that building likes to open Pokemon cards, so need more of it. I saw people that were walking around with 4 cases of Fusion Strike because 1, it was a great deal, and 2, they just wanted something to do. And then the other vendors that were there, there was Polkadata was there, and they were doing some pack giveaways. PSA was there, and they were grading cards. However, the cost to get your cards graded was inflated based off of what other avenues you could go through to get them submitted. I think it was $150 was the lowest, and I think $250 or $225 was the other option, and neither option got you your card that day. If it did, I would have gotten a card graded. I think other people certainly would have, but it would still get shipped to their facility, and you would get it back based on the normal time frame of whatever that level of submission was. I definitely think that was something that more people thought was going to be, you could get it back the same day, or it would be at least the same price or maybe I'm just naive, but the same price of what you can get it for on their site typically, and even though they're still kind of working out some of the lower price levels, I think more people would have done it if they would have opted either the $50 or $100 tier, even if it didn't mean getting the cards back for months and months and months like most cards are right now. And then on top of that, another thing that people were asking about from my community and from at the event was, if you do submit a card to this to be graded through PSA at the event, does it have a special Leonhart event part of the slab, similar to what Logan Paul did with his first edition base set booster box break, where if you got a hollow PSA 10, it would say Logan Paul box break on it. And I think that's super cool. It adds to the collector's value of going to an event like this. What's up, guys? It's Nate from the future. So after I recorded that first part of the video, I actually got a Twitter DM from someone in my community named Julian Martinez, who sent me a tweet from Alex Hodges, who was also at the event and pulled the base set Charizard Hollow on stage and got it graded by PSA. And not only does he already have his slab back, but he also has a custom slab where it says Leonhart pop-up on the slab, similar to what Logan Paul did for his break. As far as I know, this was not advertised anywhere. So obviously that's super cool. If I would have known that, I 100% would have graded my Charizard, and I wouldn't have even cared about the money. It's more just about the fact to have something like that from being at the first event, but it's besides the point at this point. I just think and hope that in the future, if something like this is going on, that it is made abundantly clear and it's not just like a secret surprise for people that end up getting their slab whenever they get it back. All right, back to Past Nate. I think that this has potential to be the premier Pokemon card event, and having kind of a more all-encompassing experience will really help it achieve that in a few years' time. Number 4, access to creators and influencers. Obviously, Lee was there, Pokerev was there, Real Breaking Nate, Pat Flynn, also known as Deep Pocket Monster, and plenty of other people, Super Duper Danny, and more. And they were, for the most part, either on stage hosting the event or walking around meeting with people, signing cards, taking pictures, doing pack battles. And that was, like, honestly, again, another thing that this event brought to the table that other past events may not have to this caliber. People were meeting some of their favorite creators. That definitely should continue for future events and maybe even take it up to another level. One thing that I really liked was that they actually brought non-Pokemon content creators on stage to rip packs, people that were probably at least interested in Pokemon cards, like Graham Stephan, Danny Duncan, Aaron from Game Grumps, who is actually walking around trading with people on the trade floor because he's a diehard collector. That's super cool. Get as many of those people as possible to turn this into the premier collectors event. Maybe even someday Logan Paul will come to an event like this. And I know that he can be pretty controversial. Not everybody in the community likes him, but I just think that that could be another thing that really sells through this event for certain people, and maybe it would turn off others. But whether you love him or not, he's officially changed Pokemon, and he's an avid collector. So in my opinion, I think he'd be welcome at an event like this. And I think he did as much of this as possible. I didn't see everything that Lee did, but it seemed like he was walking around as much as he possibly could, spending time in VIP to take pictures with people, and otherwise being up on stage helping with the vintage pack opening. And so I think he definitely tried as much as he could. No matter what, he's not going to be able to give everyone at the event time, but as long as he does what he can do, I think that's all we can ask from him. And maybe even if this event can be a 2-day event in the future, that would provide even more opportunities for people to meet him and other creators. And hey, maybe someday I'll even be invited to an event like this to help be a part of it, like some of the other favorite creators in the community were. But in order for that to happen, we're going to need to keep growing. So if you don't mind, subscribe if you haven't, and like the video. I'd really appreciate it. Number 5, let's talk about the actual vintage packs and the live stream and opening the packs on stage. For most people, this was the largest selling point of the event, and I definitely think that Lee has every intention of doing that for the future events that he's been kind of hinting at that he wants to do, both in the US and internationally. But the biggest downside of the event was that people had to wait 3+ hours to get their packs. I know some people waited at least 5 hours. And so I think that this needs to be streamlined. I think that there needs to be multiple tables where people can go to get their vintage packs, and I think that it needs to be away from the rest of the action. So that way it doesn't slow all of the other things going on throughout the event, it will open up more space for people to do other things like see Veronica Taylor, check out the merch booth, and so on, that I think people just didn't even bother doing in some cases because it just was this mass of people on the bottom floor of the event. The other big thing for this, I would say, is that the actual choice of the vintage packs, if you were first in line, you had a chance to get base set unlimited packs. And no matter what, if you got a vintage pack, it was a cool experience. But I don't really understand why that these packs couldn't just be randomized, have them sorted and shuffled, and have different piles behind some sort of guise or box that you can't look into, where people grab a pack from it. And so no matter whether you're first in line or last in line, you have a chance at getting any sort of pack that is available. I think that this will just be more fair to everyone involved. It will make sure that there isn't a huge influx at the front of people that are just trying to get there for the best packs, knowing that that was the case this time, which will help just kind of with the even flow of the event throughout the day. And all of the packs are wins. He's doing this, donating the packs from his collection. So beggars can't be choosers, but I just think that for the logistics of the event, it would just make more sense. And the other thing that I think that there just needs to be a little bit more communication on is whether the packs are bought at their original retail price. There wasn't a separate transaction for the packs beyond purchasing the different ticket levels that you could buy. I bought the highest VIP level. There was a couple of different VIP levels that you could get a guaranteed vintage pack, and that's what I got. But I didn't pay like $3 or $4 for the pack when I actually got there. So I think just, even though this is kind of a minute detail, just let's make that transaction either happen or just be transparent that it's included in the ticket price, because people did pay anywhere between $35 before taxes and fees to $185 with taxes and fees to either at least be at the event, and some of those are going to get vintage packs. And I think another big thing, which also speaks to the communication, is making it as obvious as possible that if you get a GA ticket, you have 0% chance of getting a vintage pack if that's the case. Or my suggestion would be to have maybe 2 different price tiers, where you have one that gets a guaranteed pack and you pay a premium, and then one that's GA where you might get a vintage pack, or maybe there's some sort of box for that tier where no matter what, you get a pack. It might be a Sword and Shield pack, it might be a Sun and Moon era pack, it might be a X and Y era pack, but there's at least a few packs in the mix where you could get a vintage card if you're GA. I think that would add some fun to the people that weren't able to grab VIP or can't afford it. And given that this has been stated as the reason, trying to get vintage packs into the hands of the people, and not just the people that can afford to buy vintage packs anyway, I think that would help achieve that mission. That is pretty much everything that I have compiled as far as my feedback for this event. There's probably more that I could say, but a lot of it's already been said. I know that Leonhart is going to take this stuff into account, not necessarily what I'm saying, but what the general community has been saying for future events, and I do hope they happen, because I'm confident that the next one will go off way smoother than the first one did, which again, I still had plenty of fun at, but I don't blame the people that did have a negative experience for voicing their experience in the negative ways that they have, because again, not everything was perfect. I don't know if Leonhart will see this or anyone of his team, but it's totally possible. I know if I were a creator of an event like this, I would be looking for feedback, but it's totally possible. So if you agree with the things that I've said, or if you have ideas of your own about how to make the next event better, please leave them as a comment below. I look forward to looking through some of your guys' ideas about how the next one can be a home run. It is abundantly clear that there is a desire for a massive Pokemon card specific event like this, and this is definitely the front runner for becoming that. So let's all just be patient, give Leonhart the benefit of the doubt of him trying to put together an amazing event for the community, and let's give him another chance to really make this event shine. Here's to hoping that this event can become just that, because I will have no hesitations with attending an event like this again in the future, assuming that some of these logistical things are worked out, which I'm sure they will be. All right, PokeFam, I appreciate you all. Have a good one. Till next time.